Hello everyone and welcome to the NAB AFL Trade Wrap, where we'll look at who your club picked up, who you lost and which teams did the best work over the trade period. Joining me in our review of all the teams is Peter Ryan and Nick Bond. Welcome gents, it's been a long few weeks.
Thank God it's over now.
Very busy.
All right, let's get straight into it. We're going to do this in two parts as we work our way through the teams in alphabetical order. So let's begin with the Adelaide Crows. They obviously lost Patrick Dangerfield but now have two first-round picks and gained some outside running class, didn't they, Nick?
They have, Nat. I think any time that you're going to lose your best player or he announces that ahead of the trade period, it's not a great result. But they've really sort of done well to get a trade out of that, getting the two sort of, or ending up with two first-round picks at the end of the trade period. Menzel, I think, from Carlton is a real surprise. I think he's going to be a real talent. And they've really bolstered that run-off half-back with Paul Seedsman and Curtly Hampton. All
right, so what grade do you give them?
I'm giving them a B+.
Very nice. A B+ to the Adelaide Crows. Let's move on to the Brisbane Lions. They gained some experience but also lost three players that they really wanted to keep, didn't they, Pete?
Yeah, look, it's been a trend for Brisbane, unfortunately, in the last 3 years. I think they've lost 34 players. So Jack Redden, James Aish and Matt Leuenberger all leaving the club. But look, they've salvaged enough, really. Their focus was to get points in for their academy prospects, Eric Hipwood and Ben Keys. They've done that. They've got 5 picks between 38 and 42, which seems unusual. But once we work out this point system and bidding for academy players, that puts them in a perfect position. They've also got some players like Tom Bell, wanted to go home, his dad's not well. He's been a pretty much improved player for Carlton. He's a tough, solid inside mid, so he'll work very well for them. They also got Jared Jansen from Geelong for virtually nothing. So they've got some players there to replace Jack Redden. I think that's great. They've also needed a goal-kicking forward. Ever since Jonathan Brown's lost, it's been a really big hole. They've got a great midfield. So Josh Walker comes in. He did a good job. He's underrated. Some people don't love him, but he kicked 5 goals against the Brisbane Lions this year, and he's kicked 20 goals. And playing at Geelong, you're going to be a quality player.
He's not your number one target, though, is he?
No, but he's filling a hole. They need a quality player, but
yeah.
They'll get Shaki through the draft, and then they're away.
Yep.
A grade from you, Pete, for the Lions?
Well, I'll give them a B. I think they've worked well with a poor deck.
All right, moving on to Carlton. 4 senior players departed and they pretty much raided the Giants' knee-full side, but 4 picks in the top 19. It's pretty good, isn't it?
It is, Nat. Well, they're obviously a rebuilding side. There's no doubt about that. And I think that Stephen Silvani's given them a real great platform to do that. They have had to see some talent go, obviously. Menzel, again, I don't want to harp on it, but a bit surprised to see him go. That was the deal, of course, that unlocked the 5 players, Kerridge and the four GWS youngsters. So my only question with it, I suppose, is this quality or is it quantity? So time will tell whether these young guys all sort of turn out. Probably the most hope I would imagine out of that bunch for Lockie Plowman.
Grade from you for Carlton?
A B+.
I reckon generous. They could have got Tomlinson. But anyway.
Well, they had a fair dip, didn't they?
Yeah, they're going to have a few flatlining years. But he's cleared the decks.
He's still contracted for another 2 years, is that correct?
He is, yes.
So they can have another go next year, perhaps. To the Pies, they snared their 3 trade targets, but they really did weaken their position in the next 2 drafts, trading off, obviously, a lot of picks there. Yeah,
they're going for it, Nat, aren't they? They've got Adam Treloar, they got James Aish to agree to come to the club, and Jeremy Howe. They're all talented players, but it was a bit of a protracted negotiation. So
a bit?
Yeah, no, it was. And the Adam Treloar one became a bit messy with the operation and the video, need we say it. I mean, these sort of things started to look a bit shaky and give Pie supporters a headache. They also lost Paul Seedsman, Nathan Freeman and Ben Kennedy. They're depth players, they're not superstars, but Nathan Freeman, you picked 10 a couple of years ago, you don't want to lose him. Treloar is a jet, though. He's probably, next to Dangerfield, the best player to come through this trade period.
Yeah,
and for Collingwood to get him alongside Pendlebury, Aish, these sorts of guys, they've got the sort of midfield that really should challenge for top 4 next year. And I know they actually just need to get to the top 8, but they should be a contender in the next couple of years because they haven't got any early draft picks.
Aish divides people, though, doesn't he? I think some people see him as an out-and-out gun. Yep. Others see him as just a really competent player. So
well,
it'll be interesting to see how he develops.
First year was good, but he's still an unknown quantity, definitely.
A grade for the Pies?
Well, I've given them an A- because they're quality players, but they want to succeed on the field to make it work.
That midfield looks pretty good. All right, Essendon got its ruckman Matty Leuenberger, and now they have 4 picks in the top 25, including that prized number 5 pick.
Well, that's what it was all about, Nat, wasn't it? I think that Adrian Dodoro said very early on that he wanted to hang on to pick 5, and he did it. I think that the impressive thing for the Bombers is that they really, I think, called the shots in that trade. They got Hawthorn involved, and that's really forced St Kilda's hand, and they then got got Sydney involved, and that I think got the wheels sort of turning when it looked as though that deal was a bit sick at that stage. So adding Craig Bird, I think, really does probably compensate for Jake Melksham going. But I think overall a pretty good trade period for the Bombers.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I think the thing is that Essendon have finally got players that want to come to the club, and it's a sign that the wheel's starting to turn.
Well, Leuenberger was obviously courted by a few clubs as well, so that's I agree with you, that's a good sign.
What grade are you giving the Bombers?
I'm going to give the Bombers an A.
An A for the Bombers. All right, over to Freo now. They couldn't land Cam McCarthy. They threw absolutely everything at him, including getting coach Ross Lyon down on the final day of the trade period, but they still picked up a jet in Harley Bennell.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult one to grade because they didn't get a key forward, and we all know for their premiership aspirations that's really what they wanted, and Cam McCarthy was the player they targeted. GWS were within their rights to hold on to him because he was contracted. The thing is, they've got Harley Bennell. Now, here's a steal. Obviously, he left Gold Coast in circumstances where they didn't want him, but they've managed to pick him up without losing too much. They've gone back in the draft from 16 to 22, but he could be a real game changer. He's a match winner. Seeing this sort of play on the expanses of Domain Stadium is going to be exciting, and I look forward to seeing him with Michael Walters and Ballantyne. I mean, they're going to be some sort of midfield with Nat Fyfe.
It could be another Colin Sylvia though as well.
He could be, but I don't think so. If anyone saw his games in 2015, he was an absolute jet when he was on the game. He's back at home with family, and really that's up to him now.
No one doubts the talent. It's the off-field stuff that he's got to get right.
No doubt, but he's at the right place to do that.
How are you rating their performance?
Well, I've given it a C+ because they didn't get a key forward.
Beautiful. At Geelong, there was a massive collection of pickups, headlined by, of course, Patrick Dangerfield. The first pick that they have in the draft isn't till 67, though, Nick.
I think they can live with that, Nat, somehow. I think they've had a reasonable trade period, the Cats and Stephen Wells. Patrick Dangerfield, one of the best players in the competition. I think it's just been a really happy coincidence for the Cats. He's a local boy and desperately wanted to get home, and they're getting him for a really good or reasonable value as well. They're not paying the earth for him. Lockie Henderson as well, I think, local boy. He should, I reckon, fit in pretty well on the back line and get back to some of the really good form that he had a couple of years ago at Carlton. Scott Selwood, of course, has had his ankle problems but gets back there with his brother Joel. I think that he's really got some great leadership, and I think that provided he can get back to full fitness, he should settle in well there. Zach Smith will bolster the ruck division where they have had their injury concerns there. He's probably struggled for opportunity at the Suns in recent years, but he can play, and I think that makes them a stronger side as well.
Did they give up too much for Lockie Henderson? They've given up a first-round draft pick next year. Yeah,
potentially, I think, but I think that's the Cats' policy, isn't it? They get the deals done. They're not the sides worrying about getting a deal done on the last day.
Yep.
They maybe pay a little bit overs, but they get the job done.
Good club. Yep.
Now, grade, Nick, I'm sure you're going to give them an A at least.
I'm going to go even further than that, Nat, an A+.
Woohoo! An A+ for Geelong. Well done to them. Gold Coast Suns, they had 3 foundation players depart and traded a lot of picks. There was definitely a lot of swapping going on there, wasn't there, Pete?
Yeah, no doubt about that. They had Harley Bennell, they basically sacked from the club, so they couldn't do a lot negotiating there. They got a reasonable first-round pick. Charlie Dixon, they held their line there and they managed to get pick 10 and a lot more, so they've done really well. They've got 5 or 6 picks next year in the first and second round, so it sets them up beautifully if there's any academy prospects and to introduce some new talent. I mean, they went after a few players, but Jeremy Howe they couldn't get, Paul Seedsman, but I don't think it was necessarily their fault. Those players just made that decision. Matt Roser had some experience, and I think Rodney Eade and Scott Clayton, because of the salary cap and so on, what they did this year, which was smart, they just targeted 4 or 5 players. They went after those players and managed to land a couple. They've also got Curry for backup ruck. It's not the worst trade period in the history. I mean, they've gone okay. I don't think they're setting themselves up for a premiership. Their focus, though, is to re-sign O'Meara and Swallow and these sort of guys and hang on to them and build for the future.
It's probably a new basis of judging some of these teams this year, isn't it? I think that the fact that they've got the academy players, and a lot of them have taken advantage of the fact of getting the future picks in to set themselves up for next year as well, which Gold Coast have done.
Yeah, no doubt. Next 2 years look good.
A grade for the Suns?
B-. They've done well.
Over to GWS. Now, they were very active this trade period. 8 players left the club. They went draft pick shopping and scored some handy 2016 picks as well. And, of course, they snared a couple of Cats, Stevie J being one of those.
Well, they're the king of the pick swaps, really, Nat, weren't they? I think it's hard to really go through everything. I'm not even going to try. Try and get your head around that, people.
That looks like my quaddie on Cup Day.
Bear in mind, again, that a lot of this is to get points for their academy players. So It looks a little bit confusing. There's not any really high picks there, but don't be deceived by that. These are going to be valuable picks for them. As you mentioned, they've got some picks for next year as well. Stevie J, I think, will be exciting if nothing else. I think he'll drag fans through the door, which is great. And Dawson Simpson gives them a little bit more, a bit of insurance, I think, in ruck as well. So
yeah, and they held their line on those players we spoke about, McCarthy and Tomlinson, rightly or wrongly. They've got the right to do it, and probably making a statement in that regard.
I think McCarthy especially was really important for them to stand firm on that.
A grade for the Giants, Nick?
B+.
A B+ for the Giants. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of the NAB AFL trade wrap. Please keep an eye out on afl.com.au for part 2, where we'll do the remaining teams from Hawthorn to the Western Bulldogs. For now, thanks for watching.